Hello, my name is Laura Trevail, and I'm an artist, writer, and context strategist. Basically, this means I make lots of different kinds of work. I make written work, I make visual and live work, I make participatory and generative work, and I work in the tech and transport sectors. One of the kinds of work I don't make is video and media work. So I'd particularly like to welcome you today to my discomfort zone. To this campfire in the uncanny valley, where I'm here to talk about using a tech tool called Twine. So Twine describes itself as an open source tool for telling interactive nonlinear stories. Now, you've probably come across interactive nonlinear stories before, whether that's in a book where you have to turn to a particular page number to correspond to the choices of what you want to do next, or whether that's games where the choices you make take you on different paths, or live events or theatre where you can influence the outcome of what's happening, or where you split up as an audience. So there's lots of different things that people make using this deceptively simple mechanic. They all have multiple choices and branching consequences. So it's not like an improvisation. All the options are there, they're written, but the path that a reader or a player or an audience takes through those options is determined by the choices they make. I say it's deceptively simple as a mechanic because it can be quite complicated to keep track of all the options. And branching narratives can get unwieldy pretty quickly. You can end up in a kind of pyramid scam type shape of affair where you've created far more ends than you'll ever be able to tie up. So Twine helps me to visualize possible paths and to click through different experiences and consequences. So you can follow audience journeys quite quickly. You can write text with it, you can make games, and it can also be useful for quickly mapping out scenes for interactive or live work. So I think the easiest way to show you is let's just have a quick look at how it works. So here we are in a brand new Twine. While you're here, you have boxes and you can write your story. And you can write your choices. And then you can bewitch your text with some square brackets, in this case, to create the next possible parts of the story. And then you can write those. And it models them for you so you can see them kind of pop out. And this can then be played through very simply by clicking on the choice you want to take. So the interaction is very simple to build it and to play through it. So as a writer, I love that Twine is text-led. I really don't think in terms of menus and sliders and graphical interfaces. And Twine is just writing text with augmentations. It's hypertext. Twine has a lot of functionality, both for story and for presentation. You can build in memory, for example. So if you picked up an item early on, you can use it later or not, and then end up in trouble. And you can also add formatting, images, and audio directly in the text, as I've done here. There's plenty of guides and examples to get stuck into what you want to do. You also have some really simple menu options if you prefer some buttons to get cracking. When you're writing in Twine, you're using text to make machines do things, which is why it's one of those really great crowbars into exploring the digital world we live in. Hands-on as a medium we can play and create with. I think that's really important to be able to connect with the decisions being made in the world around us. And I love doing that with a tool that's so focused on cause and effect. Here's part of a project that I made using Twine. This beautiful illustration is by Kaylee Hilston. Scrolling down, we find ourselves at a virtual campfire. It's just writing, just made of words in light. You can take a seat around to have conversation with some really interesting people. This was commissioned by Scary Little Girls for Green and Women Everywhere. Green and Women Everywhere is a project archiving the experiences of women who were part of a peace camp from 1981 at RAF Greenham Common, Berkshire, acting in political resistance to the nuclear arms race and to its causes and resonances. The camp existed for almost 20 years, and thousands of women took part, creating a many-layered, interconnected network whose skills, intent, and persistence continue to influence our world and possible futures. I was invited to explore the archive of interviews and to create something in response to what I learned. And the interviews themselves were so full of interest. I just wanted to pull up a chair for people and make space for the words. So I converted the linear transcripts of interviews into interactive campfire conversations. So you can ask the questions that most interest you and shape the conversation. There's no back button, there's no redo. You can't exit unless you navigate the conversation to a close. I really wanted it to have that feeling of being in the present moment and having a conversation. I won't show too much here. It's better to play it than to watch me scrolling. So for now, come and have a look and see what's going on inside the twine. I find the shapes of the different conversations really fascinating. So here are some quite clearly segmented conversations. And this one spreads out more. And here's one that links and interconnects and follows lines and comes back to them. From deconstructing the conversation into something nonlinear, I learned a lot about how people talk and carry threads of meaning. And that's benefited me a lot as a writer outside of Twine. And I kind of think hopefully as a listener too. From the get-go, we wanted the campfires to have as few barriers to access as possible, to be light on resources, to be straightforward to interact with, to run on most devices. We have an online and an offline version, and to have a good shot at a long life in terms of dependencies. And that's where Twine being open source is particularly useful. One of the things about this project that really interests me is the intergenerational side, is about long experience. And I'd really like this tech work to still be accessible in a lot of years to come. The campfire is quite big, and we have a few of them now, each with different groups of women, speaking not only about their time at Greenham, but how that resonated into lives and actions beyond each of these individual moments. To have been immersed in not only the stories, but in the telling and the retelling of them has certainly changed how I work and approach situations. Because I built this a little bit at a time, most days over a few years. And there's something in that, I think, that has coded me. It's kind of how it is with technologies. The tools we use, these repeated actions, they shape us, and we in turn shape what comes next, whether we mean to or not. So I would like to invite you to play with them in ways that are truthful and meaningful to you. You can sit around the campfire yourself here, and you can play with Twine to create your own stories or share the stories of others. I'd love to see what you make.